What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this latest episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I, of course, am your host, Tyler Lopes. If you have not subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. Also, hit that bell icon so you never miss any one of my videos. Also, like and share so that we can help the podcast grow. And please do follow me on Twitter at Lopes Goes Last and Facebook at Lopes Goes Last podcast. So a little bit of an unconventional episode today. This has kind of had to be pushed back for a few days. So this is going to be the Lopes Goes Last podcast this week. Usually I try to do an interview and a podcast, but this interview is going to be the podcast today, but that's all right because I have a great one. Max McCoig, Coach Ben Fair of Johnson University, or former coach of Johnson University, I should say. But guys, I've been so excited for this ever since we got rolling on this. How are you guys doing?
Good, man. I'm really excited. Ever since I saw you start this thing, I was like, wow, that'd be really fun to get on. And now I get to be on it with Coach Fair, so you can't beat it.
Yeah, I'm excited too, Lopes. I'm really proud of what you're doing. And honestly, I just shot a response out kind of on a wing and a prayer. And when I saw that you guys respond to it, I was like, okay, we're going to do this thing. I was just thinking about it ever since. That's been, what, a week ago? So excited to talk to you guys today for sure.
Absolutely. And again, thank you guys so much for coming on. And I appreciate, again, like I said, we kind of had to move this over and over again, but we finally got about an hour and a half where we could all sit down and do this. So I really appreciate you guys making this work. It means a lot to me. So thank you. But I know that we got a lot to get into today. So let's jump right into it. Obviously, we've had several Braves fans on the podcast so far, but obviously, Max, you are another Braves fan. So what is your reaction to kind of the off-season moves that the Braves have had to do and then the kind of early part of the season so far?
Yeah. So let's back it up to the end of last year.
Okay, right. So yes. Congratulations, of course.
Thank you. I got married in October, right?
Hey, me too.
So congratulations. Game 6 of the NLCS, where the Braves clinched it, was the night of my rehearsal dinner. Had we had lost Game 6, Game 7 would have been on my wedding day. So I was having conversations at the rehearsal dinner saying, hey, if we don't pull this out, what are we going to do? No, just kidding. But so we clinched it, and I got to watch the World Series from my honeymoon in Cabo. The night of Game 5 was our last night, so I bought bottles of champagne, and I told my wife, hey, I'm hopping in the shower and spraying this on myself if we win. We lost Game 5. We flew back home. They flew back to Houston, and Game 6 was our first day back at our new house, and we won it. So it was awesome. But getting into the offseason, it was, cloud nine. I honestly could have cared less because this is the first time in my 25 years. I was born in 96, so I didn't get to be a part of the 95 World Series. But everybody wants to know about the Freddie Freeman deal. And I genuinely believe that Freddie Freeman's agent screwed him a little bit. I think he played his hands too much, and then there was less fish on the table by the time the Dodgers came after Freddie. So the Braves offered him, obviously, you had the Yankees on board, you had the Rays on board, you had people like the Red Sox, and then a few others, as well as the Dodgers. Then you see the Braves go trade for Matt Olson. Okay, there's your biggest party now off the table. Then you see the Yankees go ahead and bring back Rizzo, a couple other things. And then I wouldn't be surprised if LA just came back and said, hey, we're not really bargaining against anybody anymore. So here's your offer. So I think Freddie got less money because his agent kind of played his hand too strong. Yeah, obviously it's sad to see the MVP and then somebody who just carried you to a World Series go, but Matt Olson's 3 years younger-ish. You locked him up for $10 million cheaper, 8 years. I think the Braves won on that side of it.
Fair enough. And Coach, what have you kind of been thinking about for the Braves? Because obviously you are not a Braves fan. You are a Reds fan, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but you are in Tennessee, which means you are surrounded by Braves fans pretty much your whole life. So what has your kind of reaction been in the Braves offseason so far?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of organically become a Braves fan. And honestly, the older I get, the more I don't follow specific teams. I mean, I'm always going to follow the Reds because that's what my dad instilled in my family. But a lot of it is just following good baseball. I love to watch anybody play on any given night. Um, and I would agree with Max. I think Freeman's agent kind of indirectly made some poor choices that let a great guy for a great baseball city go. But when you lock in a guy like Olson, I think long term, you come out on the right side of things, especially when you can get that deal done for a little bit cheaper. So as much as I hated to see Freddie go, and I still follow Freddie, even though he's on the West Coast, I still, follow what he's doing because I know what he did for the city of Atlanta and I know what he's going to do for the city of Los Angeles. So, I'm the Braves, they're just a good baseball team. They've made a lot of good decisions financially. I think they've got a fantastic guy leading the team and the program. Obviously, he's been with them for a very long time. I think he's a good baseball guy. So, I think I looked this morning. What are they, Max? You guys are like 8 games out. I mean, the Mets are dangerous right now. They're just on fire. But like I said, I think the Braves are going to be just fine long term. I don't think they're going to go anywhere in the foreseeable future. I think any team that kind of tastes that success at that level will kind of feed off that for several years following a good championship run like they had.
Yeah, certainly. And I think it's also kind of easy to note that the Braves also kind of do start slowly usually. Last few years especially, they did kind of have come out and been a little bit lackluster to start, especially last season. I mean, it didn't even look like you guys were going to make the playoffs at one point. And then obviously you got hot at the right time and ended up winning it all. But yeah, definitely, I think the Braves are in a decent spot right now. And one thing that they kind of remind me of, and obviously it's a little bit different because, personality wise and just kind of positional wise, it's a little different, but it kind of reminds me of the Red Sox a few years ago when you had, Xander Bogaerts, who was still very young, Mookie Betts, who was still very young, Rafael Devers, who was still very young. You got all these guys, Jackie Bradley. Again, it's kind of weird to look at Jackie Bradley at the time as, maybe a future great center fielder in the game, considering he hits 160 and 3 home runs every 450 games. But he was at the time. And so it kind of reminds me of like that young core when you sit back and go, man, yeah, maybe the Braves, they might not be they might not be as good one year versus another, but I mean, your core is just so young. Austin Riley is 25, 26, Acuna's 21, 22, Albies is 23 or whatever the actual ages are. It's around there. Like the core is just so young and your pitching staff is also really, really young. At least your core guys are really young. So I certainly think that the Braves have a great future as well as a great present. Even if the present right now doesn't end up being another World Series, I still think that there's a great chance that you guys are going to be there year in and year out over the next 5 or 6 years for sure.
Yeah, and the question always pops up, like, do you think the Braves are going to repeat, or gosh, they just won a World Series and look at what they're doing this year? I think last night they won, so they're 21-23. Last year at this point, I think our record was identical. We didn't get over 500 until August. But if we would have been 20 games over 500 in August and been the favorites for the World Series and won it, it's still like the hardest thing to do in sports to repeat a title because everybody's coming for you the next year. But I think the Braves' woes and the talks of, hey, you won the World Series, but now you don't have it. You don't have it anymore. I think it's solely because we won the World Series. Had we had not won the World Series last year, people would be saying, oh, the Braves are fine. They're going to catch their stride.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I completely agree. So moving on to the Cincinnati Reds, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, I'm sure I know, but moving on there, a little bit of a different story, I would say, than the Braves. Obviously, I would say expectations were still higher for the Braves, obviously coming off a World Series, but I think expectations, pre-lockout were decently high for the Reds. You had some good pieces in place. At this point, obviously in real life, it ended up happening, but we're sitting there thinking your young pitching staff that are in the minors, one, maybe two, maybe more of them are going to come up and really solidify the bottom half of that rotation. And, you guys could have been dangerous. And especially with one more year of development from Aquino, from India, from other guys, maybe even a Senzel, although at this point it's been, 3-4 years and he hasn't done much. So I don't know how much he's a believer in Senzel I am at this point. But, young guys like that developing, you guys could make a run at a postseason, especially with the expanded playoff. But then obviously you trade Winker, you trade Suarez, you trade Sonny Gray. And it just felt like the front office just kind of threw their hands up and said, you know what, we're done. I'm tired of this. And so, I didn't understand it coming from an outsider's perspective, but what was kind of you kind of see it every day as a Reds fan. Like, what was kind of the thought process going into that? Because it didn't seem to make a ton of sense to me, especially the guys you traded. I get Suarez. I mean, he hit 180 last year or something, but Jesse Winker is still one of the more underrated players in baseball. He does not get his just due with how good of a player he is.
Yeah, well, let's not forget Castellanos either.
Right. Yeah. He left in free agency, though, so,
But, it's tough right now being a Reds fan, and I think that's stemmed from the lack of movement by our front office and willingness to kind of buy into what we're doing. I mean, we've Votto's fought injuries, Senzel's fought injuries, India's fought injuries. It's tough, but I think, I'm kind of the ever optimist with the Reds. I don't think we should have let all of those guys go. I think, obviously we're not a major market team, so we don't have the coin to spend that some of the other cities do. But, I kind of see it through two different sets of lenses. I see it from the financial standpoint and production standpoint, but I also see it as what's good for the city. And there's a few guys in there that were really good for the city and really good for the organization. And Winker was certainly at the top of that list. I mean, we probably all saw what Castellanos had to say about ownership during his departure, and not even getting a phone call. And you can shake that out however you want, but I think there's just been a handful of years here recently where our front office and our ownership have made poor choices for our ball club. Cincinnati has a long, illustrious path of just being, good baseball town, and a lot of good players have come through there. A lot of Hall of Famers have come through there. So, I think this year is about surviving. If we can not go down as the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball, that would be good. I think we beat the Cubbies 20-5 today, so that feels good to put some runs on the board. The thing that I think I see the most, though, is our pitching staff has struggled quite a bit. We don't get a lot of run support, and I think that has applied significant amounts of pressure to the offense to kind of, always feel like it's up to them. Obviously, you got to score runs to win ball games, but we're also losing games where it's 4-3, 2-1, 4-2 ball games where it's like, man, if we could have just pushed a couple more runs across, not left runners on, our record might look a little bit different. But I'm going to remain positive with it. It's frustrating at times because you feel like we're trading everybody away for prospects, 15th round draft picks. I mean, at this point, we might as well just give free peanuts and popcorn and hamburgers and hot dogs out, because there's days where it feels like, well, that's all we can afford to do is give everybody free food, because we just can't seem to put it together, from top to bottom, from the front office to ownership to letting that translate over to the coaching staff, which ultimately translates to the players. So we'll see. We'll get to the mid-season break, and then we'll reevaluate.
Yeah, absolutely. Max?
Yeah, the Reds, It's so weird because I mean the Reds they look like they're at the bottom of the barrel right now, but as a Braves fan, they're always the team you hate to play. It seems like every time I'm watching the Reds, I mean the first series of the year they beat us, and it's like they're still scrappy. You've still got Votto, who he could be hitting 050 and torch the Braves. So I think I look at it a little bit differently. I think they have a lot of young talent, guys like Lodolo and Hunter Green, but just missing 1 to 2 star-studded pieces. India, if he could stay healthy, he's that guy in 2 years. So you can come back and look at it and be like, okay, now how do we build around this guy? Because you're looking at it now, and I guess India is the guy you're building. You're not building around Votto anymore. Not Hunter Green yet, but you've got these guys who are breaking the stage and making their appearances at the big league level. You're like, okay, now we've got these guys that we can name that we can build around. Shogo Akiyama just wasn't it. And I wish he was. That was so much fun when he came and signed with the Reds. But you've got India. If you keep Brandon Drury, I would love nothing more than Votto to get a ring just because I like him.
Well, you can also throw in Armour and Stevenson too. I mean, a lot of I hated seeing Tucker Barnhart go. Gold Glover, good guy for the city, but I think Stevenson learned under a great catcher, and I think that's showing. Stay healthy. Kyle Farmer is probably not going to give you a ton of offensive production, but he's a defender, but I agree with you, Max. I think we're like 1 or 2 just quality arms away from, I think, things starting to fall into place.
I'll take Castillo at the deadline.
You might get him if you're not careful.
Yeah, no, that was going to be my next be my next question is, obviously the Reds have decided, Reds being the Reds front office decided, we're done. Like we're rebuilding, we're starting over, whether you agree with it or not, that's what they chose. And so when that kind of happens, and maybe it's just me kind of being used to other sports as well. When a team decides to rebuild, they get rid of everybody. Like everybody's out the door unless you are young, like you're 22, 23 years old, or maybe you just can't get rid of them. Like no matter what you do, nobody wants them. That's it. Those are the guys that are sticking around. And there are still guys on the Reds that, other than, the young guys that we named, like Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Jonathan India, there's guys like Luis Castillo, like Tyler Molly. I don't know how to actually pronounce the name, but yeah, either way. There are just guys on that team that are still kind of around, even Joey Votto. I mean, I'm sure that somebody would want Joey Votto, even at his age and even producing the way he, especially in the offseason. Didn't the guy just come off hitting like 280 last year with like 25, 30 home run? Like you're telling me in the offseason, if you knew you were going to rebuild, you knew you were getting rid of everybody, nobody called about Joey Votto? You couldn't get anybody to give you a bottle of half-drunk yellow Gatorade for nothing? You couldn't get anything for him? You're just going to make the poor guy sit at first base every night watching balls go over his head for 162 games at age 39 or whatever he is. Like, so how come guys are still around? Like Luis Castillo, like Joey Votto? How come the Reds front office haven't gotten rid of those guys yet?
Well, and I think, especially with the universal DH now, I mean, Votto, I watched an interview with him not long ago where he was very adamant, like he still wants to play defense. He wants to be productive on both sides of the game. And I think he can do that for another year or two. But, he is such a student of hitting at that age where, he is constantly breaking down his ABs. He's constantly going to battle with the pitchers. I think he's still got some left in the tank. I think he's on borrowed time, but I think he's got enough left in the tank where he can still be productive for somebody. Of course, I want to see him retire Reds because you just don't see many guys that start their career and end it in the same place, and I think that would be special. But I think it's going to get interesting as we get closer to midseason with a couple of our guys that are pretty well liked in the city. And I would certainly put those two on the list.
Max, what about you?
Yeah, Votto's he's one of those odd ones where it's not like he's retiring this year. But it's also not like he's got another 5-6 year contract in him to go help a team win a World Series. He's a guy that I think I'm just going to ride it out with the Reds and then retire. So when you think of trade pieces, the ones that I think of are Molly, Luis Castillo, maybe a Lucas Sims.
Yeah.
As a back end of the bullpen guy. He's not – I don't know. He's just a guy that I think of. He's not like prospect age young, but he's also still in the what is he, 30?
He's probably 30, 31. I think he's in that area.
So,
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a solid back end of the bullpen piece, but I don't know. And I said the same thing about Freddie. Freddie's going to be a Brave, and it's a little bit different scenarios, but I don't see Votto going anywhere. Because can the Reds get a big enough prospect haul to dish away their franchise player at the deadline? Is it worth? Do they get something that makes it worth it?
No, I mean, it would probably be like what we've done countless times in years past, cash considerations and
player to be named later. Yeah.
Be named later. Yeah. We've got that. There's any organization in the country that needs to hone that craft, you need to call the Cincinnati Reds front office, because we will roll out the red carpet on how to get you players to be named later, cash considerations, and future prospects that will make it to the show in 7 to 10 years, maybe.
There you go. Yeah. Well, let's play a little bit of a fantasy game. If Joey Votto were to get traded at the deadline, if the Reds front office were to grow a heart, their heart was 3 times the size that day, and they say, you know what, we have tormented you long enough, sir. We have won 30 games at the trade deadline. I can't sit and watch you torture yourself anymore. Let's trade you. Where does Joey Votto go? Because I have ideas, but what team gets Joey Votto? What team is going to be at that point where Joey Votto is going to help?
Well, you go first, Lopes. Let's hear it.
For some reason, I can just see him being in pinstripes. Now, they might not necessarily need him because they've got Rizzo. They got a lefty first baseman already. But something about Joey Votto being in pinstripes, something about Joey Votto being that hometown Cincinnati guy to just being a Yankee. Like, I can just kind of see it. And plus, his personality, I think, really works out or could work out in New York. Again, it doesn't make as much sense baseball-wise or fit-wise, but I just for some reason could see it. And again, there's no like real reason for it. I just think that if there is a team that's just gonna, stick their middle fingers up to the rest of baseball and trade for Joey Votto, it's the Yankees.
Yeah, well, I'll put it this way: if that happens, Berkey, I love you to death, buddy, but if that happens, guys will never see or hear from me ever. I
hope it doesn't happen either. I hope it doesn't happen, but I don't know why I could just see him in pinstripes for some reason.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that. I mean, I think it's hard for me to kind of nail down a couple teams, especially with the universal DH now. I think really, I mean, he could probably land 8 or 9 places. I think and I think that would be good for him if it does, because I think he deserves to have the opportunity to pick what's best for him at that stage of his career.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the Yankees, as a front office, that's the team that would do it. From a logic standpoint, especially with Stanton just going down with a calf injury again, he's likely going to move back into a more DH permanent role. Right, because they've got to protect Stanton if they want to push a playoffs, which leaves Rizzo at first, which needs an outfield spot open, which makes it harder to find a spot in the lineup for Votto. but that is the team that would put a middle finger up. A team that is very interesting to me that I've wanted to make the playoffs the past 4 years, they just can't get over the hump. It's the Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah.
I think the Los Angeles
Walsh is already there, though.
Yeah. Who's DHing for the Angels right now?
Who's DHing for the Angels right now? That's a good question. Who is DHing?
You got Walsh at first. Upton's gone. I know Shohei is DH.
I just did a video on them too. How do I not remember? That's really sad that I don't remember.
So that's why I think you platoon them at first with Walsh and they can both DH on their off day.
Oh, Shohei.
Yeah, but Shohei. Okay, so then Shohei's pitching, but also Shohei can go back to the outfield. And I like watching him play the outfield. Will they? Not the day after he pitches. But midweek, I don't see why they wouldn't.
I mean, I like it. I like it. Another team that springs to mind for me is the San Diego Padres. If they just if the Reds decide, you know what, we'll take Hosmer's contract. We're not going anywhere anyway. I could see them, you know, trading Eric Hosmer for another lefty first baseman to platoon over there at first. Because I think
isn't Hosmer like hitting out of his mind right now?
He might be. Honestly, I don't remember at this point. He might be.
I'm blowing up.
I think you're right. I think he was doing really well early on. I don't know if he still is. But.
I mean, I think the Dodgers and the Padres are locked in a pretty good dogfight right now.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. And I just figured it might be good for a postseason push. But if Hosmer's hitting out of his mind and you have Luke Voigt, yeah, there's no room for you at first base. Yeah, that's fair. But no, I don't know. I'm trying to think of if there's any other team that might make sense. No, maybe if you want to,
maybe
Toronto, if you want to have a lefty option at first base on Vlad Jr.'s day off, or let Vlad Jr. DH a little bit more. Maybe if Jose Abreu keeps struggling, maybe Chicago. I don't know. Like there's a few teams that might make a little bit of sense, but again, for me, I don't know if those front offices would have the cojones to make that phone call, but I think the Yankees would.
Yeah.
Well, I think if a few people are going to check in and try to like respectfully ask that same question. And I think it's all these teams that are like the Angels and the White Sox who are going to be battling for a first to win the division probably till the end. And it's like, if we can get one more piece without having to dish too much capital or too much prospect, then let's do it and try to get over the hump right now.
Yeah, especially like you said, those teams that as the season progresses that are within, 3 to 5 games of striking distance, I think that's when we'll see front offices start to be willing to pony up a little bit more cash without going overboard and compromising what they're trying to, build on for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. And another one I just thought of is Minnesota. That might make sense too, especially this year. I mean, I didn't expect Minnesota to even be remotely decent, and I think they're still in first place. If not, they're a game or two behind the White Sox at this point. Nonetheless, like that's one that makes sense.
Yeah, they're 5 games up on the White Sox right now.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So yeah, they're that could be a team that has already traded a bunch of good prospects and shelled out a bunch of money. Maybe you sit there and go, all right, maybe we find a decent bat to add to our lineup, get some good veteran leadership in here, and let's try and go all the way this year and win a World Series and surprise the heck out of everybody, maybe. No. But anyways, yeah, so I want to kind of move on to we wanted to talk about a little bit of baseball conspiracy theory, and I have a really, really good one for you guys. This is one that, I've heard of for years, but I'm also a super nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, this might not be super common knowledge, but I don't remember what year it was at this point, but obviously we all know about Cal Ripken and his streak, right? And, his consecutive games played, he played, 5 million straight games. It was just ridiculous. I don't know what the exact number was, but he played a lot of games. Well, there was a point where Cal Ripken Jr. hadn't showed up to, pregame warmups, hadn't shown up to a game, and then there was a power outage in Baltimore. And so they canceled the game. They had postponed the game and moved it to a different day. And, obviously, the people at the Orioles said, oh, well, the power went out at the stadium. We can't play baseball without lights, blah, 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 all that stuff. Well, the conspiracy is that Cal Ripken was not going to be at that game. That obviously is part of it. But the big part of it is that they actually faked the power outage. They did it on purpose because Cal Ripken had injured his arm getting into a fight with major actor Kevin Costner because he caught Kevin Costner sleeping with his wife and beat the crap out of him. That is a conspiracy. Now, a lot of people have said that's not true at all. Especially they have said that Kevin Costner was filming a movie overseas at the time. But that is still something that, people say that happened, is that Cal Ripken sprained his wrist or broke his, I don't know what it was, something, beating up Kevin Costner, and he wasn't going to be able to start that game, so the Orioles caused the power outage so that he could continue his streak. What do you guys think about that?
I've heard the wrist, that he hurt his wrist, but I heard it was a bar fight. So I have heard like that. I've never heard that it was Kevin Costner. A little bit of me, because I love that conspiracy theory, because I think it's true that they faked the power outage. I want it to be true that it was Kevin Costner. But I've also heard that he was just like, he tweaked a wrist like the day before, or he was sick and he just like, he wasn't going to be there. And it was either streak ends, there's no rain, so let's figure out the next thing. And it was, okay, we're turning the lights off.
Yeah, and I'm sure how you fake a power outage at a professional ballpark when I'm sure every electrician within probably 30 miles of that stadium could have solved the problem by plugging the breaker back in, flipping the power back on, and let's go to work. But I'd long heard it was a bar fight. I remember watching the game when he broke the streak with my dad and some of our best friends that we grew up with at their house. And I remember kind of the buzz surrounding it. Obviously it was a lot younger, but I'd always read and I'd always heard at that time, social media was non-existent. So you're reliant on major media outlets in newspapers and or magazines that it was a bar fight. He sprained his wrist, and that was kind of the extent of it. And the power outage, it's probably just an easy cover up, but let's be honest. It's probably one of the great things about baseball we'll never really know.
Yeah,
But,
certainly. Go ahead.
But he still did it. There was no game. There was no game. You can't go back.
Can't go back.
It would have been so much worse if he was like unable to play, started the game, went to shortstop, they threw a pitch and they took him out. That would be so much worse than there not being a game. So I love it.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. And it's interesting that, I wonder if, assuming that the power outage was indeed, faked, which I mean, it probably was. Let's be honest with ourselves. I wouldn't be surprised if it really was faked, because I've seen it in sports before, or at least I've seen conspiracies like this before with the Super Bowl, and I can't remember which one it was.
The Ravens and what year? 49ers and the Ravens.
Yeah, they said that it's possible that the NFL was so panicked because they thought the Ravens were just going to absolutely destroy the 49ers and nobody would watch the rest of the game, that they turned the power off so that the 49ers would have more time to figure out their life. And it actually kind of worked, to be honest, because it came down to the 1 yard line at the end. So, it did work out that way. Again, that's all assuming that
Super Bowl's rigged.
I mean, maybe not all of them. But.
Always going to win. Ray Lewis is always going to win a Super Bowl in his last year.
Yeah, there was no denying that. You're right.
Enough.
That was whatever I needed to do to make that happen.
Wasn't Beyonce the halftime show that year too?
I don't remember.
Beyonce was the halftime show, and she did her Illuminati thing on stage, and then the power went out.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, sorry, Coach. Actually, you know what? Go ahead, Coach. You were going to say something.
I just said simply blame Beyonce. But in all honesty, I think every halftime show for the foreseeable future will pale in comparison to what we had last year.
Yeah. Oh, it's not close.
Just going to call it what it is. I didn't mean to get sidetracked, Lopes, but that was my childhood coming full circle right there.
Fair enough. But no, like I will say, I don't remember which one of you said it, but one of you said that they were going to, the NFL was going to do whatever they could to make sure that Ray Lewis won the Super Bowl. Why did they do the power outage then? Because the Ravens were the ones that were destroying the 49ers. It wasn't the other way around.
I said, like, Ravens should have never made the playoffs. They're a wild card team. They were the Cinderella team of that year. So yeah, the blowout, they still wanted to make their money and get their ratings. So they still wanted a close game, but they weren't going to lose. He wasn't going to lose.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, but kind of getting back to the actual conspiracy theory here with Kevin Costner and everything, like, I wouldn't be surprised again if, all of this was actually a thing, but I wonder why. I mean, I wonder if, I should say, not why. I wonder if the conversation ever came up like, dude, just get over here, put on your glove, go out there for a pitch, and then come off and go home or go see a doctor or whatever. Like, I wonder if that was actually a conversation. And that's, I think, another reason why people think it might have been an actual, like, fight with Kevin Costner is because they think that he might have been put in jail because of the fight with Kevin Costner. So he could not go to the game and he could not start the game because he spent the night in jail because Kevin Costner and all of, his famous acting money was like, oh, well, clearly you're getting arrested now because you just put your hands on me and that's it,
But in that case, it comes down to who's the bigger celebrity in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Which Coach is going to have to answer that one because that one's a little too old for me. But if you think, the same Cal Ripken was the ball player's ball player. Every man loved him. If you hated the Orioles, you loved watching him play. If Cal Ripken goes to jail, somebody's going to get him out.
Yeah, quickly.
If it means to keep the streak alive, somebody's getting him out of there.
That's fair.
Yep.
That's fair. No, I that is a good point. And again, this isn't a conspiracy that I believe personally. I don't think that he fought Kevin Costner, especially, I forget what movie he was shooting, but it's been pretty widely proven that Kevin Costner wasn't even in the United States, never mind in Baltimore, during the time that this was happening. This was, an instance of like, oh, well, there's these two separate stories of Kevin Costner being with a certain woman and Cal Ripken Jr.'s streak, and people kind of conflating and putting them together when the timelines don't match up at all. But it is an interesting conversation to have because, I guess none of us will ever truly know for sure unless you were there. So it is kind of an interesting idea to throw around out there, especially given how many sports movies Kevin Costner has done and how many baseball movies specifically. I think he's done like 4, 5, maybe even more at this point. And that's not even including like other sports movies, like Draft Day and stuff like that. So it is kind of interesting that he's kind of been the face of sports movies really for the last, 20, 30 years. And then now you have this story with, the ultimate, as you said, the ultimate ball player's ball player and the ultimate actor's ball player kind of getting into this kind of altercation. Allegedly. Not really allegedly, but in theory.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. That's one of my favorite conspiracy theories out there. And if there are any other conspiracy theories for baseball that, quite frankly, are better and more entertaining than that one, I'd love to hear it because I don't know of one really. There's like small ones, right? Where it's like, oh, this guy crawled in a vent and to hide somebody's bat because it was corked, but who cares? Like, like stuff like that. But no, I don't know. But anyway, so one thing I do want to talk to you guys about, and it's something that I've really been interested in for a while, to be honest, and I just haven't had much of a platform to talk about it that would make sense because it is kind of just a strange topic to just randomly bring up, is kind of, your baseball, like superstitions and everything like that. Like, obviously we've seen players have their own certain superstitions. I have to eat this certain thing at this certain time before every game, or else I'm going to go 0 for 9 with 9 Ks, or whatever. But, I am kind of interested, Coach Fair. Obviously, you were the coach of Johnson University for a number of years, and I've never asked a coach, what is a coach's kind of superstitions before a game? Is it a pregame meal? Is it, meditation or prayer or anything? What was did you have any certain superstitions before a game, or were you kind of just a go with the flow kind of person?
No, I had some superstitions, but I had to be a little bit flexible with weather, as the timeline changed. I had the same routine every day before a game. And that was just the process in which I went about preparing the field. It was mow, drag, paint, clean the dugouts, check the trash cans, and get the equipment ready in that order. If I did not do it in that order, I felt like I was missing something for the entire day. And it didn't matter that I would do it 52 times a year, or if I did it 30 times a year. If I had that process out of order, I felt off. And once that was done, it was filling out the dugout lineup card at the same time before every game, period. So that was big for me. I had a few superstitions as a player. It was tightening the laces of my glove was one of them the day before a game. I tried to eat the same thing before a game through college. Sometimes that worked, sometimes that didn't. I played with a guy, he was our starting third baseman, who had a superstition of spray painting his cleats chrome before every game. That's probably the strangest superstition I've ever seen. I had dreadlocks. Phenomenal guy. Been friends for, we're probably we're getting close to 20 years of friendship. I'll put it that way. Unbelievable third baseman, but spray painting your cleats chrome was next level superstition. So I think as a coach, though, one of my favorite things to do was you guys know that I was watching you more than you probably let on to think that I was watching you. And I always loved picking up on what your superstitions were. I know that you guys had nuances about you before a game. And that was fun for me, because it was always like I would pick up on clues that you would kind of leave a trail of. Sometimes I felt like you were trying to throw me off your scent. And then there are other days where I was like, no, I know Max is doing that. Like, there's just, I've seen it for 30 games now. He hasn't changed. Lopes, same thing for you. There were things that I thought that you did. I'm like, I'm going to leave Lopes alone. He's going to go down there and do his thing. I just enjoyed that part. I think that's just one of the greatest things about the game of baseball is it's a game inside of a game on every possible level.
Yeah, absolutely. Max, what were your kind of superstitions that you had as a player?
I was weird, man. I think mine would more happen like as slump busters. Like I'd go pee on my hands if I wasn't hitting. But superstitions, like things that I would try to do every single time, would be there was one time, this was in college, so I didn't do this till college. I smoked a single. This was when Coach Fair was still the first base coach, when Phillips was at third. And he looks at me, he goes, Max, your zipper's down? And I was like, oh, well, I didn't at the time, but I was like, well, I can't change it now. Oh. And so every AB, we were probably not even a quarter of the way to the season, but the rest of the year I hit with my zipper down. Yep. And then
first base.
Yeah.
That's awesome. My God.
Pitching is where I got weird, and I wouldn't do it. Like, I'd get mad if it was different. So you throw your warm-up pitches, I would throw the same. First inning, I would go 2-seam, 4-seam, change-up, curveball, slider, back to the 4-seam on the throwdown. Throw 6 pitches in the first inning. The next, however long I last, I'm going 4-seam, 2-seam, 4-seam, 2-seam. The rest, I'm not throwing another off-speed pitch in warm-ups. Afterwards, I'm bending down and stopping, I waited for the throw to go over, swiped the dirt, threw it, and then if it didn't touch the third baseman's glove, you weren't getting the ball to me.
Yeah.
Like, I would not receive the ball from anybody to start an inning had it not touched Berkey at third base.
And I think Berkey picked up on that pretty quick to where
Yeah.
he was pretty adamant on he's going to get that baseball before anybody gives it back to you.
Yeah, because I wouldn't touch it. And then I don't know, I was big on not moving. So after I threw a pitch, I'm like, some guys walk down into the grass, they'll get the ball and they'll walk it back around. No, I was throw it to me, I'm back on the mound ready to go. I was a rhythm guy and I was into it. Strikeouts, I would do a walk, and strikeouts, I would swipe the same spot of dirt. If you look after games that I pitched, there was the same spot. It was a stripe that I just swiped over and over again with my hand. And I would just pick up dirt and throw it just to feel good.
Goodness. I should have gone first because mine are bad. Like I don't really, because here's the thing. I thought I was a really superstitious player in high school. Like I had my thing. Like I had to do the same exact stretching routine before every game in the same exact spot on the fence in the same exact order. Every start. That's what I had to do. I had my bands, I had everything like that, and I had to do the exact same routine, throw the exact same number of warm-up throws from each specific distance. Like I had it down to like, I will warm up in 13 minutes. I had to throw the exact same number of warm-up pitches on the mound. I thought I had it down. And then I got to college and it just, for whatever reason, it just kind of it ended up stopping for whatever reason. One of which is because I didn't start all that often on the mound. I was usually a reliever. So, I couldn't exactly stretch for 45 minutes before every time I went out there. But no, I did have kind of like the regiment of, again, doing the exact same stretches over and over again. And then every time I got the ball back after a strikeout, I had to knuckles, glove, and then put the ball back in my hand. If you did that out of order, I would literally toss the ball back to you. And then you had to do it again. And people would just look at me like, what are you doing, bro? And I'm like, yeah, I can't deal with because if I'm sitting there and, part of it's just me being dumb because like part of that specific one is probably just me not being able to be an adult and not think about stupid stuff like that when I'm actually like about to throw the ball to the home plate, where I'm just like, I can't believe that this guy didn't do the glove thing and now I got to throw it, like I wasn't adult enough to actually just get it out of my mind. It's definitely part of it. But at the same time, like it just was something that I had to do. But then again, once I got to college, it kind of felt like it just all went out the window. So what were you kind of observing from me, Coach Fair? Because when you said that, I was kind of interested because I'm like, I don't think I really necessarily had a thing, but maybe I don't know.
For both of you, it was more just like how you prepared yourself mentally.
Oh, yeah.
Mental preparation before, you were coming out of the bullpen, or Max's case was, a big start on a conference weekend. It was just the mental preparation was, being left alone to kind of start the process of thinking about, who we're playing, who's potential threats in their lineup, from weather to timeline of, we're 45 minutes from first pitch to 20 minutes from first pitch, and seeing how that kind of evolved as we got closer to the first pitch of the day. I could see the check marks were being put in your boxes mentally of getting yourself ready for the opportunity for you to do your job that day is what I observed the most. And that was always special to me because we always talk about mental toughness and baseball is a game of failure and it's hard to be successful over extended periods of time. But I like that there was never really much waver in either of you on how you prepared yourself mentally for game day. It was just every single time that we played a game, it was, you guys were right there mentally preparing yourselves. And Lopes, I know you weren't much of a two-way guy. Max, you were. And so, being able to kind of check boxes both defensively and offensively, was important to me. Those were a lot of things that I saw early on that really kind of progressed by the time you guys became seniors. It was like, you had it dialed in. Like there was no shake in the routine. There was no deviation from the routine. It's like you knew exactly what you needed to do at what time you needed to do it, and you were always ready to go.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely the mental part of it was definitely something I had to keep the same, just because, I mean, let's face it, I'm not good enough to just go out there and, all right, let's go toe to toe. No, I was not that talented. So I had to kind of get myself in the right mindset. That's certainly true. Max, I do have a question for you specifically, because I know Coach Fair, when you played, you weren't a pitcher. So this might not necessarily apply to you, although it might as a position player. I'm not sure if it would, but I was always that kind of player that, like, my coach in high school specifically would always, like, he would try and be helpful. He wasn't a pitcher either, but he would try and be helpful for me. When I was, pitching in a big, district game or regional game or a state game, he would always give me, like, the lineup and everything like that for the other team, like 2 or 3 days before, and, their averages and all that kind of stuff. And, we talked through, like, this guy's, he's a big lefty, he's dangerous, don't throw him inside, blah, blah, blah. I hated that. I hated it so much because, like, and, talking about it's fine, but, like, looking at this sheet and judging somebody based off of just pure numbers always drove me nuts, because as somebody that's numbers were never all that great, like, I always felt like I was a big game player. And so numbers go out the window when it comes to the playoffs for any sport. To me, numbers go out the window, and it's just about who shows up. It's about who wants it more. A guy can hit 210 in his career and hit 500 in the playoffs, and I don't care. Look at Howie Kendrick for the 2019 Nationals. Do you really think that he was the focal point of anybody's scouting report as a pitcher? No, but he was the difference maker. Like, it always depends. So I hated doing that. Max, were you kind of that guy that liked that scouting, like that big scouting report, or were you somebody that just wanted to go out there?
No, I wanted to go out there and throw, because regardless of what a scouting report says, so say you've got a 4-hole hitter, 5-hole hitter who can hit the inside fastball. If that pitch is working for me, I don't care what you get. I'm still giving it to you. Mm-hmm. And if you hit it, I'll tip my hat. But I'm not going to look at a sheet of paper and change my game plan or change mid-game of what I've been doing and what's been working for me the first 3-4 innings.
Completely.
Of course, you play the same guys for 4 years. You kind of start to get in a rhythm. It's like, okay, 2 weeks ago, this dude hit a bomb. I'm probably not throwing him a curveball inside this time. Or if I do, I'm gonna get ahead and I'm gonna spike one and see if he's looking for it.
Yeah.
But the big scouting reports, more often than not, you want to have an idea, right?
Yeah.
You want to have an idea, especially if you've never seen a guy before, or it's like, okay, I know that we've played Hiwassee 100 times this year. This guy's coming at first pitch fastballs. I'm not throwing the first pitch fastball. I'm going to try to get ahead with an off-speed pitch. You want to have an idea, but you don't want that scouting report to just overcome everything that you're doing in game. Because if the book is telling me pound this guy with curveballs and I'm only leaving curveballs belt high, I'm ditching the curveball. I'm not going to continue to throw a curveball that I'm hanging just because this guy struggled last week with a curveball.
Yeah, for sure. I completely 100% agree. And a lot of that also would kind of fall on the catcher too. Like for me,
right.
A catcher can kind of see things that as a pitcher you just can't. He can see where a guy's standing specifically. He can see if a guy's a little bit later or a little bit earlier than maybe I can see. Like, because as a pitcher, you can kind of, at least for me, maybe you had better eyes than I did. But for me, I could tell when a guy was really early or just not looking for a fastball at all. Like I could tell that. But when you're a tick early or a tick late, and the result doesn't necessarily show me that, like if it's just like a foul ball kind of like in these directions here, like not straight back, but kind of like flaring up, I can't tell if you're early. I can't tell if you're late a lot of the time. So that kind of falls on my catcher too, where like they can see it a little bit better than I can. And, the scouting report could say all the live long day that, this guy can't, this big righty can't hit a slider. Well, If he yanks my slider 450 feet that way, why am I going to go, well, he apparently can't hit it according to this piece of paper that somebody handed me. So I'm going to throw that pitch again and just hope that he doesn't time it up. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, kind of as you said, like it's, you want to have an idea of what a guy generally doesn't hit, especially late in counts. Like, is a guy looking off speed late in counts? Is he looking fastball late in counts? What is he doing? But at the same time, like you said, if your scouting report's trumping what's working for you that day, and what you actually are bringing to the table, like you're going to struggle. Like, especially like I hate the thought process of like as a righty pitcher, throw changeups to lefties and sliders to righties. It's like, okay,
I think we saw that develop really. I mean, with Berkey, and certainly with Newsom, two very high baseball IQ guys behind the plate. I think when that developed, and of course we taught a lot and spoke a lot on, catchers speaking confidence to your pitching staff, being confident in their abilities when they aren't, and I really think that transpired. I mean, you think back to the region tournament when Newsom hit that home run against Northland. It's that baseball still rolling around Madisonville somewhere, I'm sure. But I think my point is that transpired into making pitchers and catchers better hitters, because your thought process is completely different from position player. I mean, even probably without question, one of the top 3 moments of my collegiate career, coaching or playing, was senior night with Max. That was a dogfight that night, and with White getting the start of the bump and grinding out, keeping us in the game, and then getting into that pivotal inning where we made a change, and then Max knew exactly what pitch he was hunting, and I mean, just ripped the seams off the baseball, and just a phenomenal night, phenomenal ending on senior night. But I think what goes unnoticed often is the preparation mentally that happens as being a pitcher and being a catcher and being involved in every single pitch, and I think that's what really gave us the advantage that night. It helped that some things went our way. We had probably the top 3 strangest things happen in my coaching or playing career, with the pass ball that was picked up by the guy on deck and thrown back in. Ejection happened, and I'm sitting here thinking, what world is happening?
Gardner got his way and still got ejected.
That was I'll never understand how that happened, but he did. I was told to keep my mouth shut and walk back to my coach's box, so I did that. Thinking, why are we arguing about a call that's going your way? We're the screwed on this. But then again, as the night progressed, I feel like it was 11:30 o'clock that night that things just went the way they were supposed to go that night, and I'm glad we were on the right end of a great game. So and it was good for me too to kind of see that come full circle. There's not a lot of people that probably know this story, but Max was actually the first guy I recruited. When I started to try to figure out how this recruiting thing works, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was drinking from a fire hydrant, but I knew that we had to find a way to get talent there. And unfortunately, I saw Max's last game as a senior in high school. That's the game I came to watch, coming off the previous year of making a state championship run. But, being able to recruit Max and just kind of see everything come full circle, man, what a just special career that you had, Max. That, I mean, I look back on it and I'm just like, I'm just very thankful that I got to play a small part of your career. Like I said, there's not many people know that you were the first guy I recruited, first guy I signed. And I think that was the most important cornerstone to building what we had. And I think overall, you know, we didn't win the games that we wanted to win and in the way we wanted to, but I was so adamant on leaving it better than we found it.
Mhm.
And both certainly left the program better than you found it. And that's what most to me at this stage of my life is just seeing Brucey be successful now is just, it's awesome. You know, I'm pulling for him 100%, but that would have never been able to happen, I don't think, without you guys coming in, buying into what we were doing, leaving the program better than you found it, competing your tails off, and then just being good men. And that's what mattered most to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a beautiful kind of transition to talking about Johnson and talking about the program and everything. And so obviously, I think this kind of in this podcast, it almost kind of represents the three phases of the program here. Coach Fair, you were obviously, you know, you were the guy that started the whole thing. You were the coach. You were there when it started. Max, you came in right when Johnson kind of started taking off, and you know, you left right before the new kind of regime came in and everything with the ARC and with Russell Morgan Field now and everything like that, and which obviously I was a part of. So I think it's a beautiful kind of thing that we get to sit on this podcast and kind of talk about just how Johnson University and its program has grown and has evolved over, you know, the last 10, 12, 15, however many years it's been specifically. So for both of you, what is something that really sticks out to you, a memory, I guess, that sticks out to you about the specific time that you were there? And Coach, I know that you were obviously there for all three phases, right? But for you, kind of stick to those early parts, especially because, you know, I don't really know anything about the early part of Johnson University baseball. And then Max, obviously, when you played, and then if time allows, obviously, you know, when I played. I think that'd be a good kind of thing to roll around. So whichever one of you wants to go first, feel free. I'm really interested.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, this is a tough question. There's a lot to unpack here because I think about this often, especially, you know, I moved back to Indiana to be closer to family. I got back into coaching at a high school here. And so I find myself reliving a lot of those moments when we started to get the talent in there that we needed to be successful. But, you know, those early years, my gosh, those were just unbelievable times of my life. I mean, I always look forward to going to the baseball field, and I don't think that's ever going to leave me. I'm seeing that now in my son, who's 7, who's playing ball, a lot of ball, who just loves being around the game of baseball. And I think that's what we enjoyed most, is that we just love being around the game of baseball. We loved being around each other. And I think that was a big thing for us. You know, I think those early years, you think about, you know, how we just got Burke from Tennessee Temple when they closed. You know, you think about Jose, Justin, Max, Garrett. I mean, you could go on and on about the camaraderie we had that year, and we made a run, a valiant effort. You know, and I think those memories are the things that I carry with me most. I don't, you know, I get older, my memory slips a little bit, and I don't remember scores of games or all the moments of games, but I remember the guys that we had who made baseball fun for me. And, you know, I think those are the memories that matter most to me. We've got a lot of pictures of those years still floating around. But I think on top of just the caliber of the players that we got, just the competitiveness, seeing that grow from year 1 to year 2, from year 2 to year 3, from year 3 to year 4. And you could just kind of see that Johnson baseball was walking up that ladder one step at a time. We were going the right direction. And but I also think too, more importantly, arguably, it was the players. Like, you guys buying into what we were doing, but also taking accountability for it and running with it, and as my time progressed at Johnson, with the growth and the change in affiliations and the athletic facility, we were doing a lot of really good things, a lot of things that needed to be done. I had gotten to a point where, I was missing a lot of those pivotal years of my kids' lives. Max, you're going to be experiencing that probably sooner than later. But, I'm also thankful for how much those guys welcomed my family in the game of baseball. Nothing for me to look over and I see the guys rolling baseball to my daughter or to my son, or seeing them out there, or just picking them up and holding them and playing with them. That's the stuff that I carry with me. I hold closest to my heart. Thankful probably for more than anything is just the fact that we have all kept in touch. We don't get to talk every day. We don't get to talk every week, but we're still active in each other's lives. I do my best to follow what you guys are doing. And it just makes me happy to see how well everybody's doing. It also makes me feel very old that I've got former players who are married, who are having kids, have kids, and I'm surely not that old. I'm getting a lot more gray hair on my face and on top of my head than I used to have, and I don't have quite the pep in my step, but I can still swing a mean fungo. I'll put it that way.
Yes, you can.
But that's what I'm just most thankful for. More than anything, is just the memories I have from the guys early on that kind of helped change the way. I was fortunate to coach a lot of really good talent, but we worked hard to get those guys in the program, even before Max's time, with like the Daniel Klein, 4-time state champion in football at Alcoa, was Region Player of the Year when he was around, All-American, and then you guys winning your honors and just seeing you guys compete, man. That's really all I wanted to happen, is just be competitive. We're playing this game to win, but off the field, it was the relationships that mattered most. And I miss the road trips. I don't miss driving everywhere, but I miss the and watching 3 movies in one trip, and hear you guys play that stupid Mafia game for hours. But that's, like I said, that's what mattered most to me, is just knowing that we had really good guys in the program for a long time. And I think Brucey has done a spectacular job of recruiting the next era of Johnson baseball, getting good guys in the program. Obviously having Chad Bell around is just an absolute blessing. And to unpack that more, to have Coach Howard around, Robbie Howard, who is a absolute legend in South Knoxville, who's just one of the nicest, most sincere human beings I've ever been around. And his ability to teach the game is just unparalleled. So, being a part of all aspects, from when Johnson was what it was when I played, to moving into the coaching realm, transitioning into an assistant athletic director role, and seeing the university grow. I'm very thankful for my time there. But I'm most thankful for the guys that the game of baseball allowed me to meet and become lifelong friends with after my coaching days were over.
That's awesome. Max?
Yeah, I think, there's a ton, just playing at Johnson for 4 years. I think the first one that stands out is, which kind of set the precedent for the 4 years of just how Coach Fair believed in his guys, regardless of how old they were or how much experience they had. I remember our first weekend, my freshman year, we went to Sewanee. And coach looks at me, told me, he said, Max, you're getting the ball game 1. I was like, all right, here we go. I got torched, but that didn't change just what he believed in, like the ball player and the man that I was. Freshman year was kind of like this turning point from what I've heard about Johnson. Obviously, it was my first year, but it was kind of this, hey, coach had this mindset of where he wanted the program to go, and he wasn't going to stop until he got there. And he left it better than he found it. And we won 2 games. And I remember we won a conference game against Alice Lloyd. And Coach Lovett was our pitching coach that year. And there was a foul ball. It was raining. And there was a foul ball that hit the dirt and like made this indentation because the mud was getting tacky. And like clearly a foul ball, called it fair. They had scored a run late. It was a close game. And I've never seen a coach like just come out of their shoes so mad. So he went, but what's funny is when he got thrown out, he just walked up the hill. He didn't go to the bus. He walked up the hill because Pippa Passes, Kentucky sits on a mountain. So he walks halfway up this hill and sits and watches the rest of the game. So that was funny. But really, so sophomore and junior year, I think what we were talking about earlier about this like pitcher superstition or like just coach letting his guys do their thing. I lived with 2 of the 3 catchers that I had at Johnson at one point. And you always hear this, pitchers and catchers, they have a good relationship. They're on the same page. And I was like, okay, yeah, they know the game plan. But it's like, no, like me and Newsome really got along. Like we had our thing going freshman, sophomore year. Me and BT even had a really great relationship on and off the field. And then obviously me and Burke have our own thing. Yankees suck, Burke. But it got to this point, like we worked our tails off in the dead of winter, throwing indoor bullpens. And then finally when it warmed up to go outside to where we were on the same page. We were with each other every day. And the games at Emory and Henry, we only played them 1 year when I was there. Me and BT was catching, and I threw 12 pitches in an inning, and I threw all sliders. And I'll never forget it. I struck out the side, and it's because, like, coach just let us go. I came back in the dugout. He goes, Max, did you throw anything but a slider? I was like, no. And he was like, okay. Senior night, obviously, is a great memory. We've already talked about that. It's probably my best college memory, but the one thing that I think I'll never forget was my last game. We're playing Alice Lloyd in the conference semifinal, win or go home, and I get the ball against their ace. So it's 1-1. We're head to head, just like we had been 3 times earlier that year. And I remember the first inning they scored a run, and I punched the mound, and my finger started bleeding. And I knew if I got blood on my jersey, or blood on the ball, they'd take me out. So I just remember wiping dirt on my knuckles just constantly because I didn't want to come out of the game. But that game was, it's a blur to me at this point, but I'll never forget there's 2 outs in the 9th inning, or 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th because we were the away team. And Coach Fair comes out to pull me. And I'm like, it was the moment where, like, okay, this is it. Like, it's done. And you like look around, we're at Hiawassee, and I was like, all right. And you always want to ask yourself, like, or the question that I wanted to ask myself, I always told myself I'd never wanted to walk away from the game. Like I always like wanted to just not be able to do it anymore. But when coach walked out and knew he was taking me out, I looked around and I was confident and I was like, I've given it all. I've left it all on the field. And Coach Fair came out to me. I handed him the ball. He said, Max, you gave everything you had for this program for 4 years. He said, thank you. And then me and Burke hugged. Now everybody's crying. And I walked off the field. But that moment means more to me than a lot of things. It was this full circle of a guy who showed up at my last high school game who said, I have no doubt you can play this game at the next level, turned into a guy who's been a father figure in my life who not only took a chance on me, but never didn't believe in me. And I showed that for 4 years, and it changed my life. But that moment is something that I'll take with me. It's, way bigger than baseball. So much bigger than the game of baseball. It's something I'll take with me for the rest of my life.
I appreciate that, Matt.
That's awesome, man.
And never forget the countless hours of Mafia played on the bus. I am the champion. Burke is the Mafia. I know he watches this.
Yeah. Well, usually.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Coach?
No, I was just Burke was always Mafia. Clay was Mafia.
Yep.
And Tom suspect at most.
Yes. Yeah, precisely. Yes.
But if me and Newsom were ever Mafia together, y'all had lost. The game was over. Me and Newsom were going to take it.
I think I was Mafia one time, but I was driving the bus.
Yeah, probably.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, time permitting, I'd give my answer, but I don't know what you guys. I know, Coach, you said you got to go at some point. What's your time frame looking like at this point?
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's about to storm. Like I said, I'm at the press box here at Les Page Field at the high school that I'm helping coach at. My son is buttoning up practice right now. You guys, I'm telling you right now, and you're on the cusp of this, Maxie. There is nothing more enjoyable in life than being a dad. Period.
I can't wait. October.
It's just incredible. Grady is just taking off with he's loving it. He's practicing. He gets done at 6:30, so I think it's probably getting close to 6:30.
It's 6:30, yeah.
Sweet spirit. She doesn't have a mean bone in her body. My son cannot stand to lose at anything.
Good.
Literally anything. It doesn't matter if he's trading baseball cards with me. Played 40 years ago. He can't lose. It's comical. But it's it's been a good transition for us. I miss you guys dearly. I think of you guys often. Lopes, I'm just thrilled that you're doing this. I feel like all those years I got to sit next to you on the scorer's bench working, I don't know how many volleyball games, how many men's and women's basketball games. Seeing you in your element is something that I never took for granted. I got excited working game days with you because your energy level, it never wavers. And when you have a microphone in your hand, it's like game on. It's lights out at that point. And then Matt, see, we go way back, and your family mean the world to us. And your sweet mom is just one of the kindest souls I've ever been around. And I'm thankful that we got to do this, guys. I love you to death. I miss you dearly. And I hope that all of our paths get to cross again real soon, because I know that I would enjoy that. And I think there's several of the guys who have come to the program that would enjoy that too.
Reunion. Book it.
Book it. I'll be there.
Let's make it happen.
Let's go. And definitely, you guys have my number. You guys have my social media. You guys ever want to come on the podcast again, you're there. I'll make it happen. So,
all right. I'm calling him out right now. Burke, I want to come on the podcast and argue with you.
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
Let me end with this. I'm really, really glad that the Braves got the ring for a couple reasons, because I do like Atlanta. But Max made me a promise like 3 years prior. He said, Coach, I'm not getting a haircut till the Braves win the championship. And I said, are you sure about that? That would be a long time, bud. Thankfully, it wasn't that long. The flow got to, enjoy its glory years, but you look better with a haircut, Max.
Thanks, kid. Hey, my wife's trying to lobby for me to bring it back. So
you better probably listen to her then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've only been married for a few months, and I was gonna go clean shaven for the longest time. Like I was like, the beard's gone. It's worst time in my life was when I had a beard, and that was the worst year of my life. So I was like, I'm getting rid of the beard. I'm starting new. I'm a new man. Soon as my wife said, no, I like you better with a beard, right back. I'm like, okay, all right, that's all I need to know. I'm good. But no, I do want to ask you this, Coach, before you go real quick. Do you remember the bet that you and I made our sophomore year with each other about the Reds?
Oh man, Lopes, you're testing it here. I have an idea, but
Yeah.
I'm fearful that I might fail in the accuracy of this. So you better lead the charge here.
Yeah. Okay. So you still owe me, by the way, because the bet was. Don't worry, you don't actually have to do anything. I was just kidding. But the bet was that if the Reds win the division, then I have to shave my head completely bald. And if they don't win the division, then you owe me $25 Chick-fil-A gift card. That's what the bet was. And by the way, not only did the Reds not win the division, but the Red Sox, my team, won the World Series. So, I feel like I won that pretty convincingly, I'd say.
That's not how I recalled it, but I trust you, Lopes. So
well, what do you remember then?
Not gonna say, buddy.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I will let you guys go, guys. Thank you so very much for coming on the podcast. Again, like I said, anytime you're welcome back on at any point. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
I love you guys.
Love you, Coach. Love you, boys.
I love you guys too. All right. I'll see you guys later. Hey guys, me again. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It means the world to me that you decided to stick all the way to the end. That's super cool. So thank you again. And if you really, really like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and share it with all your family and friends because, this is my passion project. This is what I love to do, and I really want the sucker to grow. And the only way that can happen is through you guys, is if you guys can help me out. So again, if you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, share it with all your friends and family. That's the only way this is going to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.